Now that is sexy. Hey, what is up, you guys? Film Fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review seasons 1 through 4 of Bojack Horseman. Now, before I get into my reviews of all 4 seasons, I just want to kind of warn, I will talk about some plot points that do happen in these 4 seasons, so if you haven't seen the show, I would not recommend watching this video because I am going to talk about some plot points that do happen in these 4 seasons. So, yeah, but if you don't care about spoilers, or if you have seen all 4 seasons of Bojack Horseman, then go ahead, just keep on watching, and yeah, let's talk about this show. So, what this show is basically about is about a guy named, well, a horse actually named, well, Bojack Horseman. And he had a hit show in the 90s called Horsin' Around. And it went on for a very long time, but then it got canceled. And now Bojack Horseman is pretty washed up. He's a washed up actor, and he's very depressed. And, you know, he just wants to try and get back his stardom. And that's what he kind of tries. He tries to become relevant again, and he just wants to be happy. So, what did I think of Bojack Horseman? Now, when I first heard about the show, like back in like 2014 when it was first getting started, I didn't really think much of it. Like, I was like, this kind of looks like just to me like a dumb, like I didn't see any trailers, knew nothing about it. I just saw Bojack Horseman, like the poster and stuff like that. I'm like, this kind of just looks like a dumb comedy with like a talking horse, really. That's all it seemed like to me at first. Like, when I first started, you know, noticing it and stuff. But the more I heard about it, I'm like, you know, I heard it was just much more than just a dumb comedy about a talking horse. Like, I heard it's very deep, depressing, thought-provoking. Like, I'm like, this show of all shows? Like, okay. But then I don't know, I just really didn't kind of watch it, even though my friends like Caden and Kevin have, like, praised it like hell. You know, I don't know. For some reason, I never wanted to check it out. But then, my good buddy Tony, he was like, you know what? Hey, you want to watch this show with me? I was like, you know what? Let's finally do this. I want to finally see this show. And I'm glad I did. Because this is like one of the greatest shows I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm going to go on a limb right now. This is the best show I think I've seen since Breaking Bad. This show is a masterpiece. Like, this is the best show I've seen all decade. Like, easily the best show I've seen all decade. Like, this show is incredible, honestly. It really is a phenomenal show, and it really took me by surprise. Like, I didn't think, like, I knew this show had a lot of praise behind it, but I never knew that I was going to love this show this much. It's easily, without question, the best show Netflix has ever done. Like I said, this is a very yes, is this show very funny? Yes, but that's not what the main core, I think, of this show is. The show is a very deep character study of a man who's just going through a lot of stuff in his life and being very struggled to be happy. Very depressed. He's just a lowlife, honestly. And he knows that. And that's what makes it hard. Like, he's really hard on himself, this character. And it's one of the best character studies I've ever seen, honestly. Just seeing what kind of downward spiral this character goes through in many situations throughout these 4 seasons is quite riveting, but is also depressing to watch. It is an emotionally it will drain you, this show, emotionally. It really will. You know, this show does start off like a typical comedy. The first couple of episodes of the show really do start off as a comedy, really. Like, it's all typical sitcom stuff. But once it keeps on going along and going along, it gets more and more thought-provoking and more deep. It's almost like with each season, it gets deeper and deeper, honestly. And it's really fantastic, honestly. Like, I was so invested in what was going to happen with this character and so invested into his story. It was amazing, honestly. Now let's get into my positives with the show, because I do have many of positives with this show, and my positives being, first, the voice acting is absolutely incredible. I love the voice acting in this show, honestly. Like, I think everyone plays their part so well. Like, everyone's perfectly cast. Like, I can't imagine anyone else playing these characters besides, well, the actors that are playing them. Like, Will Arnett as Bojack Horseman. What more of a perfect guy you could get for this character, honestly. Like, this is like if Will Arnett was a horse. Honestly, if he was a talking horse, this would be Will Arnett. Like, he is perfect in this role, and just the emotion that he brings to this character, and just the depth, and his, and just his voice. All he has to do is just voice acting, really. And he just brings so much emotion to it. And it's absolutely incredible. I think he does a phenomenal job. This is the best I've ever seen Will Arnett, honestly. He's absolutely incredible in this role. Like, he is fantastic. Like, I think he does a phenomenal job playing this character. Like, he gets this character down to a T and really gives it his all as Bojack Horseman. And he's really fantastic, honestly. Aaron Paul as Todd. He's great. Todd is like a lovable goof, and I loved him. And there are scenes where he also gets really emotional, and you really feel for him, honestly, and he is great. I really think Aaron Paul does a fantastic job on this with this character. I really enjoyed him a lot. Like, I really loved his dynamic with Bojack Horseman, honestly. He is great. Like, I really love Todd in this show, and Aaron Paul does a really fantastic job as his character. And also, it's cool that the two of them, both Aaron Paul and Will Arnett, are both executive producers on this show as well. And he's absolutely great. I think Aaron Paul, honestly, does a really fantastic job as Todd. Alison Brie as Diane, she's great too. I really loved her a lot in this show, especially in season 1. I think that's really where I saw the best of her in that show. I know a lot of people say Diane kind of fell off the deep end and she's really not that great. I still was invested in her character throughout the seasons, honestly. I still think she was a really good character, honestly. And I still quite enjoy her, and Alison Brie is perfect as this character, honestly. Like, she's perfectly cast, and I really enjoyed her in the show. Amy Sherretts, I believe that's how you say her name. She plays Princess Carolyn, and she's great too. She's like Bojack Horseman's manager, and it's awesome. Well, agent, and she's great. Like, I really loved her a lot in this show too. Like, the stuff that she gets herself into as well is fantastic. And Paul F. Tompkins as Mr. Peanut Butter. Mr. Peanut Butter is officially my Lord and Savior. Mr. Peanut Butter is the man. This guy is great. Like, I absolutely love Mr. Peanut Butter. And Paul F. Tompkins does a great job playing this character. Like, Mr. Peanut Butter is just the most lovable, just dumb goof. He is, but I loved him. He's like so positive and so energetic, and he's amazing. Like, I loved him as a character, honestly. Like, he was really fantastic, and Paul F. Tompkins does a really fantastic job as this character, honestly. Like, he brings so much, energy to this character, honestly, and he's so fantastic. Yeah, just all the characters, like, I really love. Even the recurring characters, like the side characters that they get for this. Like, J.K. Simmons plays a turtle, and he's great. Like, it's awesome. Like, J.K. Simmons plays a turtle in this. Kristen Schultz, I believe that's her name. She plays Sarah Lynn, one of the kids that was on Horseman Around with Bojack Horseman. And, her character is actually really complex, too, and really emotional, because she plays like what happens to like most child actors that get into the business really young. She became a very popular singer afterwards. Then she went into a drug downward spiral, and we see that in the show. It's really hard to watch, honestly, because she was like this little cute little Lindsay girl on Horseman Around, and now she's like basically a goddamn train wreck now, and it's like really hard to watch. And what it reminded me of was kind of Lindsay Lohan, kind of the same thing that happened to her, and this is what it was, kind of a scary representation of that, and it was really honestly hard to watch, and especially like whenever her and Bojack Horseman are around, like, it's really hard to watch because the character's going through so much of a spiral, kind of like the main character, honestly. And I honestly thought their dynamic as well was really interesting as well. I quite like their dynamic a lot as well. Olivia Wilde plays like a fox that we see in like the first 2 seasons. She was great. Like all Stanley Tucci plays Herb. He was great too. Like there's a lot of characters in the show and a lot of actors that make an appearance in the show, and they were all great. Honestly, there was not a single character that I really didn't like. Honestly, like there's not a single character that I was like disliking. Like every character was like really good. I really liked them a lot. I thought the humor was really good too. This might be the funniest show I think I've ever seen, honestly. Like, even though, like I said, that's not the main core of the show. We'll get more into that a little bit later on. But, you know, this show is still a comedy. And I think the humor is actually really good. Even though it gets a little bit dark, a little bit, you know, over the edge. But it's really good. I think the way that they handle it is really fantastic. And there were a lot of moments during these 4 seasons that had me laughing my ass off, honestly. Like, I really thought it was really good, the humor, honestly. Like I said, this might be the funniest show I think I've ever seen, honestly. Like, the humor is so well thought out and so well executed and well, you know, nicely timed. There we go. And it's fantastic. Like, I really do enjoy the humor in this. And it's really fantastic. But like I said before, that's not what the main course of this is. The main course of this is just the deep, emotional character study that this is. And this is one of the best character studies I think I've ever seen, honestly. Like, just getting deep, not just with Bojack Horseman, but with the other characters too, like Todd, Diane, Mr. Peanut Butter, Princess Carolyn. Like, it's so deep and emotional, honestly. It's so thought-provoking. And really hard to watch, honestly. It really is. With a lot of the stuff that happens in this show, it's really, really hard to watch. But it's great, honestly, you know. And very realistic. That's why I think makes it very hard to watch, is because it's very realistic, honestly. Like, a lot of people go through this type of thing in their lives, and it's just really very, very painfully real. That's the best way I can put it. This show is painfully real on the way it depicts depression and someone that's just going through the lowest point in his life. Like, it's really tough to watch. Like, this might be the best depiction I've seen of depression, honestly, in any form of media, honestly. Like, the way that this shows a character that's just broken and just can't be happy. No matter what happens to him, he just can't find that happiness. You know, it's really hard to watch, but it's really great how they handle it, honestly. And just how painfully realistic it is. It's just so emotional to watch, and is a really fantastic character study. Like, you know, he gets the dream role of his life. He gets to play Secretariat. It's the role he's waited for his entire life. Doesn't make him happy. You know, it just goes to show to you, no matter how much you can have in life, it's just not, it can't always make you happy. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen that many times in real life with celebrities. Like, depression is, you know, it sucks. Even though if you're rich, successful, and have a lot of money, that still can't make you happy. You know what I mean? Like, you can still feel depressed, and that's what this show shows, honestly. Like, no matter what happens, you know, all these great things can happen to you, but maybe you could just never seem to feel happy. And that's what exactly happens to Bojack Horseman throughout these 4 seasons. Lots of things happen to him. Like, in season 2, he goes back to the one place that made him happy, and that was with that fox, like I said, that was played by Olivia Wilde. And he just finds a way to screw that up and just, you know, make himself miserable. Like, he goes to kiss her, even though he goes to find out, like, she has a family and all that stuff, and he goes to kiss her and just makes it all weird. He almost sleeps with the fox's daughter. Like, it's like, I think that's where the character was at his lowest point, honestly. And that was just tough to watch. Like, I was like, oh man, like, it was just, like, so painful, honestly. And just the way that this show just depicts a lot of this stuff. Like, even there's a lot of things that, just besides depression, they get into a lot into as well. Like, they, like, get into, like, what happens to child actors after, you know, like I said with Sarah Lynn, like, what happens to them. goes into the realisms of what happens in Hollywood and stuff like that. Like, it just, you know, like, wherever it might be, like, covering up sexual, like, harassments and sexual assaults and stuff like that, or, like, gun control they even talk about at one point, and, like, how people would react if, like, a woman had a gun around and stuff like that, or even there's a whole episode about Diane getting an abortion, and they talk about that too, like, just how they handle that as well. Like, this show just doesn't hold back on anything. Like, they just go for it. And it can be really tough to watch at points, but the way that they handle it is really fantastic. And it really makes it feel painfully real, honestly. And you don't get that a lot with a lot of shows, or hell, even movies sometimes. And I really appreciate the show actually of going there and just making it painfully real. And I think it's really fantastic how that show handles that, honestly. I've been going on way too long about this, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. And I really do appreciate the show. I think it's really great that the show, honestly, was not afraid to go at that point with that and really make it painfully realistic, honestly. I think that they did a fantastic job with that. I like the dynamic that Bojack Horseman had with all the characters, honestly. Like, I liked his dynamic with Todd, Mr. Peanut Butter, Diane, you know, Princess Carolyn. There's even at one point where he might have a daughter in the season. I liked his dynamic with that, with her. Honestly, like, I think he has great chemistry with a lot of the characters. There's, like, a chemistry he has with the director, honestly. Like, I really liked his chemistry with all the characters. Even, like, with the other characters, too. Like, with Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter, or Diane with Mr. Peanut Butter. Like, it's great. Like, I think all the characters, honestly, have good chemistry with each other. And I liked all of their interactions with each other. Like, I thought it was fantastic. Speaking of all the characters, I was really invested in all the stories involving the characters. You know what? With, like, a big cast like this and a big arrangement of characters, some storylines can get boring, but there was never a time, really, where I was bored by any of the storylines in this season, honestly. Like, in any of the seasons, honestly. Like, I was very invested in everybody's storyline and interested to see where these characters would go next, honestly. And I think they did a really fantastic job with that. You know, just, I really think the writing is really clever and really, really great. This is some of the best writing I've seen for a television show, honestly. Like, I love the writing with this, whether it be with the humor or just, like, the realism, like, the deep realism, honestly. Doesn't matter. The writing is really fantastic with the show, and I really love it a lot, honestly. And how could I forget to talk about this, but the animation. The animation is really fantastic, too. Like, I love the vibrant colors and the way that they make Los Angeles look. Hollywood, as they call it in this show. Not Hollywood, Hollywood. I really like how they did that, honestly. I really like how they painted that. And just the animation is great. Like, I love the expressions, like, especially with their eyes. Like, their eyes pop out of their heads whenever they, like, get excited or something, like, big happens. Like, it's great. Like, I love the animation. It's so pitch perfect to me. I really do think the animation is really fantastic with the show, honestly. I really do love it a lot. It's very pitch perfect, in my opinion. And I just love how the animation is executed in this show. I do think they do a really fantastic job with that, with handling the animation in this show. And, you know, like I said, there was never a time where I was bored during the show, honestly. Like, I felt very invested into this entire show. There's 12 episodes each season, and there's really hardly ever a time there's, like, there's never a bad episode, actually. There's some that can be, like, okay, but there's never really, like, a bad episode, in my opinion. There's never really been a bad episode throughout the 4 seasons of this show, in my opinion. I really do think each episode is either really good or really fantastic, honestly. Bojack Horseman is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen in my life. This might be up there. Like, honestly, it might be my favorite animated show now. I'm not too sure. Like, it might be up there with Ed, Edd n Eddy as, like, my favorite animated show of all time for 2 different reasons for both of those shows, why they're my favorite. But just the way that the show, like I said, although, yes, like I said, it's a comedy, it's very funny, it's probably the funniest show I've ever seen, but really, what the deep core of this show is a very deep, realistic tale about just a man that's just, well, a horse in this case, just going through just some really low points in his life and just not seeming to be happy, and how depression is basically eating him alive. And it's a great character study, and it's really fantastic, and it's very painfully real, but it's really fantastic and really phenomenal to watch. So yeah, before I give my official grade on Bojack Horseman, I want to grade each season. So season 1, I would give season 1 an A. I think season 1 was really fantastic. I really loved it a lot. Although my main issue was that kind of the finale was a bit weak to it, and that I do think whenever they kind of like jump back and forth, like kind of just the way that they handled the humor and the emotional stuff could have been handled a little bit better. But overall, I do think, like, in this show is a little bit all over the place, but in that season, but for the most part, it is handled well. So I'll say, yeah, but season 1 is still overall a great season. I would give that an A. Season 2, I would give that an A-. Although, yes, I will say it is my least favorite season out of the seasons, but it's still a great season, honestly. But there were some things that I wasn't as interested in as I would be with the other seasons. And just the way some storylines were kind of handled and resolved, I think could have been a little bit better. But besides that, I think it's another great season. It has some really emotional stuff in it, and I think it's fantastic. I would give that one an A-. Season 3, I would give an A+. Season 3 is easily my favorite season out of any of them. Honestly, Season 3 was a really phenomenal season. Some of the best television I have ever seen in my entire life. Just, it was perfect. So much emotion was nailed down. Just the way that some of the stuff was going on with the characters. Honestly, the best I'd seen of the characters was in that season. And I really thought that season was phenomenal, honestly. And it definitely deserves an A+. In Season 4, I would give that an A. Season 4 is my second favorite season, honestly. The way that they handled some stuff in Season 4 was very fantastic, in my opinion. And it's almost a near masterpiece, in my opinion, Season 4, honestly. And it was another incredible season, honestly, for the show. So yeah, overall, Bojack Horseman, as a whole, I would give it an A+. So far, this show is pitch perfect, honestly. This is the best show I've seen all decade. The way that they handled characters, the emotion, the humor, just everything is so perfect about this show, honestly. And like I said, this is the best show that Netflix has ever done, honestly, and it's one of the greatest shows I had ever seen in my entire life. Honestly, I've never seen an animated show get so deep and so, like, real, honestly. And, you know, it's really fantastic. I would highly recommend this show, even though it can get really depressing and really deep and very dark. I would still highly recommend this show to anyone, because this is a show I think everyone should see, and, you know, it really should be. It should be a show that everyone should see, honestly. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I loved every minute of it. So yeah, that's my review of Seasons 1 through 4 of Bojack Horseman, and if you have seen Seasons 1 through 4 of Bojack Horseman, what did you think of it? Please leave me in the comment section below, and I'm FilmFan0599, and we will see you all later. Peace.